In case you've been living under a rock, just under 2 weeks ago, Pablo Torre released some bombshell information on his podcast, which revealed evidence that strongly suggests the Los Angeles Clippers circumvented the salary cap via a shady tree planting company that has now filed for bankruptcy. This evidence suggested that LA committed to paying out nearly $50 million to Kawhi over the course of 4 years, including $20 million in stock options. This was easily the biggest story of a painfully dead offseason and one of the biggest scandals the NBA has seen in a while. Ironically, the only one that compares from the last 15 years or so also involves the Clippers. There are now even more details that have been released in recent days that make this case look even more damning for LA. The smoking gun that we have been looking for is here, and as a result, the Clippers could be facing dire consequences, including but not limited to losing multiple first-round picks, receiving massive fines, and even losing Kawhi Leonard as his contract could be voided. Let's talk about just how screwed the Clippers might be. But first, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Factor. I have always needed to be fast and flexible for my schedule, and in the past that would mean sacrificing delicious, affordable food for the quickest option. But Factor changed that with fresh, never-frozen meals delivered right to my door. Factor just introduced its healthiest menu yet, doubling the size to 80-plus rotating weekly meals, with double the seafood and protein options and even more Mediterranean meals than ever. Eating clean is so easy thanks to Factor, and portion control has never been so easy with meals from 350 to 550 calories per serving. Factor takes the guesswork out of eating smart for everyone. All it takes is just 2 minutes in the microwave and my meal is ready. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code ALSORUSTYFB50 to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. That is code ALSORUSTYFB50 at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. And thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video. So, just for a super quick refresher on the story for those of you who live under a rock, Pablo Torre found financial documents from a fraudulent tree planting company called Aspiration. Many big celebrities and investors were involved, including Clippers owner Steve Ballmer, who is the 7th richest man in the world. This company was bullshit, basically a money laundering organization posing as a charity of some sorts, and there have been multiple arrests and a few convictions among some of the top staffers for this organization. They have filed for bankruptcy, and among the payouts that they are still obligated to, the top priority one on the list was a payout to KL2 LLC, a very well hidden and tactfully named LLC right there. What Pablo found out is that Kawhi was given a sponsorship for $28 million that would be paid over the course of 4 years, so $7 million annually. There is also apparently $20 million in stock options as well as a part of this deal, and conveniently, Steve Ballmer has invested $50 million into this company. To make matters worse, this was basically a no-show contract. Kawhi didn't appear in any promotional material for Aspiration, and he didn't even so much as make a social media post or even retweet some shit. This was a far heftier sum than any of the other celebrity endorsers, and they, actually endorsed the shit for that money. This fraudulent company going into bankruptcy prioritized paying Kawhi above everything else. All of this looked super suspect, but there was enough plausible deniability, no smoking gun as it were. And Ballmer did exactly that. He went on ESPN and claimed it was in fact him who got scammed here as well. He didn't know about anything related to circumventing the cap. He just gave them money to do one thing and they did another. He also blamed his staff for letting it slip up, which is a classic billionaire move. As is Mark Cuban blindly defending Ballmer even after the evidence we're about to talk about was presented. Billionaires defend their own. It is the only kind of class solidarity that exists in this country. You watch my back and I'll watch yours. Mark's defense was the classic myth of meritocracy, the idea that Ballmer couldn't have done this crime because he would have been smarter about it if he did. Yeah, no. The guy doesn't need to be smarter about it. When you're that rich, you're untouchable. These consequences will ultimately mean very little to Ballmer. It's also a weird line of logic to think that he was dumb enough to get scammed, but not dumb enough to scam so openly. It's just cope, and I can say confidently now that it is cope because Pablo Torre has found the smoking gun. Before I get to that, I do want to just quickly give flowers to Pablo because, weirdly enough, we're actually working on a Stephen A. Smith hater manifesto right now, which is in large part about the death of sports journalism. So it's actually really nice to see an actual fucking journalist get the spotlight for once. And it really shows how degraded journalism has become as an institution, that there are a bunch of people calling Pablo a snitch for exposing fraud. Like, how about a bag brain broken do you have to be to think some dumb shit like that? It's one thing when it's like players like Channing Frye saying it. There's obviously some personal investment there. You could argue these individuals are compromised all the same, so they don't want people looking into these things to become a habit. But if you're a regular ass dude, especially one who isn't a Clippers fan, why are you defending the actions of men worth hundreds of millions of dollars in Kawhi's case and over $100 billion in Ballmer's case? They're not going to fuck you, bro. You aren't going to get rich because you lick their boots, I hate to tell you. You look foolish. You kind of look like a bitch, like grow up. But anyways, onto this smoking gun. There was some doubt that what Pablo had uncovered would be substantial enough for the NBA to actually bring down some major punishment for the Clippers. The NBA doesn't necessarily need a smoking gun to delve out punishment, but it certainly helps make the case a lot more concrete. It certainly adds to the severity of the punishment, and it prevents counter lawsuits from the richest man on earth. Right as Aspiration was really at the end of the road, I'm talking there were multiple people facing criminal charges already, major layoffs are happening, and they're counting down the days until the ship finally sinks. Suddenly, Aspiration receives a $2 million investment, not from Ballmer, but Dennis Wong, a Clippers minority owner who has been friends with Ballmer since 1975 when they were roommates at Harvard. This investment was following Aspiration being late to making a quarterly payment to Kawhi. Remember, it's $7 million annually, so quarterly payouts would be $1.75 million. So a Clippers minority owner made an investment in a sinking ship just in time to pay Kawhi. Yeah, there is literally zero reason why that would happen other than exactly what it looks like. For Dennis Wong, the only reason to do this is to pay Kawhi, or he is the dumbest investor in the history of investment. At this point, it's just a matter of time until this is confirmed by the league's office. Now, we just need to see what the punishment is, as well as further details. One thing that is really pivotal in this for Kawhi specifically is the possibility that he has withheld playing in NBA games as a result of delayed payments. If there is any evidence of that happening, then that man's legacy is kind of cooked. Could you imagine if Kawhi, the what if that he is, was missing a large percentage of his games because he was holding out for more illegal under the table money? I personally think that's a little out there. Like, for a guy who's making $50 million a year just on his NBA contract, I can't imagine a quarterly payment of $1.75 million being delayed would be enough for him to fake an injury. But if that is the case, oh boy. Obviously, the tangible punishments matter the most right now, but in the long run, that would be a unbelievable, unprecedented stain on his legacy. And if it were in any way proven to be a pattern of behavior, then that's really fucked. When Kawhi was in free agency in 2019, he demanded the owner of the Raptors get him $15 million in off-court sponsors. When he asked Kawhi what he wanted to do for the money, Uncle Dennis told him they wanted Kawhi to do nothing. See, getting sponsors on behalf of a player is allowed so long as it's above board and, you know, they actually do the fucking sponsorship obligation, but asking an owner to get you $15 $15 million elsewhere for doing nothing, yeah, that's not allowed at all. It's also much less achievable for the owner of the Raptors than it is for Steve fucking Ballmer. People have pointed out that this isn't cap circumvention because they technically paid Kawhi the max every year until his recent extension. But the thing is, if Kawhi and Uncle Dennis were asking for more than the max, well, the guy worth $155 billion will have a lot easier of a time doing that, which would be why the Clippers won the Kawhi sweepstakes in the first place. $50 million ain't shit to Steve Ballmer. The median net worth in America is $192,000. That seems high to me, honestly. It's mostly just older people. But to put this into perspective, how little money that is for him, Ballmer paying $50 million, by contrast to his net worth, is the equivalent of someone worth $192,000 spending $62. A little bit more than, well, what a video game used to cost, I guess. He didn't have to go out and find a no-show sponsor. He just went ahead and made one so that he could pay out Kawhi in a more direct manner. Aspiration then takes a little off of the top for facilitating the deal, and then boom, the fraud is complete. Now, the Clippers face tens of millions in fines, which is not actually a big deal because, again, when you're as rich as Ballmer, you become untouchable. Tens of millions of dollars is the equivalent of $30, but he does have the possibility of being suspended for a year, which means that Clippers games, after a big bucket, the camera will not be cutting to Ballmer lightly beating up whoever he's sitting next to in excitement. They could also lose draft capital. The current CBA isn't said or isn't supposed to be, like, the current outline for this is that it's not going to be as harsh as the old rule in relation to cap circumvention, but this is also a much larger case than anything that has happened before. This is an unprecedented event, so the punishment will likely be unprecedented as well. The only precedent that is loosely similar exists with Joe Smith, who was receiving a much more direct cap circumvention, and his contract was voided, but he was a role player making less than $2 million. This is different, and that ends up being the biggest question at this point for Kawhi. Is he about to get his $100 million contract voided, and are the Clippers subsequently about to lose Kawhi? All signs are pointing to that being a very real possibility. I'm pretty damn high on this Clippers team. I was prepared for this leopard to eat my face in April or August, not before the fucking season starts. And what happens with Kawhi after that? I imagine plenty of NBA teams would want to sign him at a major discount, even given this baggage, but maybe not. Maybe this is just the end of Kawhi's playing career, period. When I initially made a video about this, things looked bad for the Clippers, but I can say confidently now that things look really, really bad for the Clippers. I think they might be fucked. I think they're probably fucked. God, man, the Clippers organization, they are such an enigma. What a joke of a franchise. I'm almost mildly annoyed because we made a whole video about the Kawhi era in the Clippers over on the Deep Dives channel. And man, this scandal would have made that video so much juicier. Maybe we'll get to it one day. But yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.